What is up, Maniacs? Happy Monday. Welcome back to WMMA Mania. This is episode 15. I'm your host, Drake Riggs, here as always to provide you all the goods when it comes to recent event results and the ones that are coming up, along with the news in the world mixed martial arts when it comes to the ladies specifically. So, hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode with our special guest, Jillian DeCourse. It was a good, fun time. Finally getting around to having her on. And yeah, especially fresh off of that great knockout she had against Lindsey Van Zandt at Invicta. What was that? 47, FC 47. But aside from that, we got some good stuff on the lineup today. Pretty big lineup, you guys. 158 happened. One fight there. UFC Vegas 56, of course. A lot of news. A whole lot of news. Actually, this is the most we've had in a while. UFC 275, then, of course, is closing out the weekend. A big one in Singapore. Gonna be exciting. Gonna be fun. Good show. 2 title fights. 1 highly anticipated rematch, as you can see there on the cover for today's episode. So, before we get into things, you guys don't forget to visit MMAmania.com for all your overall MMA needs. And don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe on all the platforms imaginable. And hit that notification bell here on YouTube as well, so you don't miss a gosh darn thing. And I know that the core group of you guys do anyway, so we greatly appreciate that. And a single like goes a very long way. Just a click of a button, you guys. Just tap it on down. And yeah. I'm not going to pressure you too much, but it's just an easy thing to do. So, all right, let's kick things off. Why don't we, huh? We will get to 158, as they are no longer doing the silly names. No Fire Lords to be seen. Sorry to all the Fire Lords out there who could have their name enhanced by a one championship event, but it is what it is. Sammy is here. He says, hello, Drake. I do not want to miss this episode. Happy to have you, sir. Jimmy is here. What's up, Drake? We're going to chat about Whaley versus Joanna 2. Of course, that will be the episode's main event today. Of course, as it will literally be the last thing we'll be getting to. Makoto is here. He's excited. Alvin says, when it comes to fighting, let's treat fighters as people, recognizing and celebrating their unique characteristics and skills as individuals instead of reducing them into an asset. You love to hear it, Alvin. Yes, they're all people, too. Centro here, good to see you. Rue, he's predicting a Phantom Punch. Spoiler alert, sorry, no Phantom Punch, at least that I'm aware of. James is here, Rain is here. Boy, everybody coming in. You love to see it right out the gate. Jen, looking forward to the show. Will this show go over? Because we are going to get loads of questions regarding Whaley. We'll see. I mean, I'll try. I'm going to try and be quick through the news because, like I said, there's a lot of news. As Rue also asking, longer episode. We'll see where it takes us, you guys. And yes, Ghost, that is right. The champ is still here. Easy work once again if you joined us between the links this past Thursday. Not surprised. 60-40 once again over Mr. Michoud. Breaking our 2-2 tie, as I'm now in the lead of 3-2. And let's leave it at that. Shouldn't even have got a rematch. The guy hasn't won in at least 3 matches. I know for sure, maybe 4. He's not doing a whole lot of winning lately. So the champ is here and looking to defend against somebody new and worthy next time. Ben Duffy beat him recently. That was who I was thinking would get it. He doesn't have much of a record, but that's okay. At least he's winning. So yes, the champ is here. That was a pretty good show. I was very hungover for that. So that's a little inside baseball for you, but I didn't want to mention it beforehand because then they'd be like, oh, excuses when you lose. Didn't matter. I was still all right. And you could see at the end, though, it caught up to me. But either way, that was fun. It was a good time, as always. It's just as all the Fire Lords are disappointed. Yes, they certainly are. Jamie says, BTL champ Drake is way better than Drake. I'm so good, I'm better than me. Or that phony named Aubrey. Good to see you, Davey, from Facebook and the UK. Awesome to have you, sir. I don't know what time it is for you, but appreciate it. So there's this easy work. Jed is not worthy to fight me. Nope, that has been proven. Alex is here. Good to see you, sir. He's excited about Joanna versus Whaley, but I'm here for the Jessica Andrade smack talk. Oh, has she been saying stuff? I haven't seen it. I haven't been keeping up. I saw she talked. I think she did an interview recently, but I did not see it yet. You said Jed got 60-40 last time as well. Yeah, I back to back 60-40s. I wanted higher than that. I was saying let's go for 70, but hey, I will certainly take that. As Jen says, Ghost and Drake, what do you think of Jessica Andrade as a fighter? Andrade is amazing, no doubt about it. She's one of the greatest female fighters of all time, one of the most exciting fighters of all time. Might be the most exciting fighter. If you think about the highlight reel that woman has, it is insane. It is insane. It's just the variety of finishes that she has. So, yes, I think Jessica Andrade is fantastic. She was very one-dimensional at a point, obviously, kind of when she started at strawweight, and I guess it's the beginning of her career. But she's evolved a bit in more ways than just being a tank running at you, essentially, which is what she was. But I love Jessica Andrade. I definitely do. But yeah, not the trickiest fighter, as Go says here. Andrade is not a puzzle. Joanna and Whaley showed that. Use your long-range weapons and stay away from her power. Easy work for smart fighters. Well, I don't know if I'd say easy work. I guess it depends on who she's facing. Obviously, those are two that didn't have trouble there. But to play a slight devil's advocate for the Whaley fight, I feel like Andrade may have underestimated her a bit and definitely didn't fight very smart in that one. So still a great performance from Whaley, obviously. But if you look at some other performances, especially recently, she has been able to mix it up a little bit better than that one. But anyway, let's get through the recaps here, as again, we have a whole lot to talk about. We'll start off with 158, just one fight at atomweight, of course. 115 pounds in one championship, as Jenilyn Olsen defeated Julie Mezabarba via split decision in a pretty all right fight. I didn't mind this one. Very, very close though. Like I wouldn't have been mad at it being a draw. I mean, I don't know. It was very tight. I don't know if you guys end up seeing this. I know Alvin loves his one, so tell me what you thought if so. But I was very, very even on the feet. Got some great kicks from both ladies. I mean, I think Jenilyn was a little bit sharper with her technique. We got a lot of spinning back fists from Mezabarba, which very rarely landed too cleanly. But I guess the big difference here would have been the control time for Olsen, which shouldn't have scored because she didn't really do too much damage with it. But she did get, I want to say, at least 2 takedowns, maybe 3, maybe 1 per round. Which I guess could have swayed it when it was so close on the feet. But this is one of those where really not upset whoever wins it. But Jenilyn Olsen kind of playing the upsetter here recently. At least when you look at what was the B fight and then this one, I would have had her as the underdog personally. But she's kind of getting on a slight little roll. And yes, I know she lost to Ritu before this, but you look at everything around it. Kind of a, I don't want to say a dark horse in the division, but she is doing all right. She's doing all right. So yeah, let's see. And I mean, that's pretty much that fight. It was fine. It wasn't terrible or anything. Very, very close, very competitive. So that always makes it interesting. Just see how things shake out and how people feel about it. Jumbo is here, says she's excited for UFC 275. Of course, we all are. Gonna be quite a good one. As I'll get to your comment here in a second, Alex, as he says. Jessica says that she believes Juliana Pena is easier to beat than many top strawweight and flyweight opponents. I mean, I might not disagree with that. I might not. Kind of depends. That is interesting. Was this in the Guilherme interview, Alex, or was this on? Tell me where this was because I want to watch it all or read it or whatever. But not that I don't believe you. It says she talks about maybe going up in weight to fight for the title at some point, as they were meant to fight many years ago before just going down to strawweight. That is fascinating. I just love Andrade's willingness to do that, even, and not like she hasn't before she started bantamweight. But I might not disagree with that. That's a interesting matchup for sure. Salvin says 158 was a great show. So much honor and passion going into every fight. Both competitors did their best, and that's all we can ask for. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that was one of the closer fights you'll see, and I really think it had to have came down to the control and takedowns for Olsen, that's good to see too in terms of like her showing off her grappling more, at a Team Lakai. So Yeah, she's becoming one to watch, I would say. So yeah, it was definitely a fight with some takeaways. Sorry, just putting in the note here so I don't forget. Thank you, Alex. That's what I thought. Yeah, because I saw that he talked to her. Blue-haired Andrade, the new mythical fighter. Rain says, I saw a Danielle Kelly interview. What did you think of her views that if you aren't being called out, that no one cares? Does that apply to Whaley since no one calls her out? I think that can go both ways. Like think of a fighter who isn't very highly ranked or something, then yeah, why would you call them out? But then if they are, it all goes back to risk versus reward, um, and when you weigh out all the other options too. So I understand both sides of that, and for her, like I can understand it, but I don't. Yeah, it goes both ways. I think it's situational. All right, so let's get to UFC Vegas 56 now. Let's get on through. We had this pretty solid card. Lots of finishes on that one. Only one decision on the main card, so that was fun. And the co-main event there with Movsar Evloev. Pretty solid performance from that guy. He's quite good. But before that, we saw Karina Silva pull off a freaking Darce choke against Poliana Botello. First round, 5 seconds left in the round. You would have to think this might be the end of Botello in the UFC. That is 3 losses in a row. She hadn't fought in 8 months. Yeah, and Karina Silva, I mean, it's kind of a bummer too, an extra bummer for Poliana, because I thought she was doing pretty fine on the feet. Like it wasn't like she was overwhelming or anything, but if I had to slightly edge it to somebody, I probably would have said Botello was getting just a slight edge in the exchanges in this one. Silva was very patient and then, found that opportunity there when it came and sunk in that Darce choke after, well, I guess before the knockdown, I should say, because, and even though it wasn't like a typical knockdown because Karina was coming in and took her down kind of like as she rocked her. So that was a beautiful sequence. But before that punch, I thought Botello was doing pretty well, but then, got totally rocked and went to the ground and then, caught in one of my favorite submissions. I love a good Darce choke. So very good performance from her. I mean, man, she is savvy with those submissions. I was telling you guys last week, if you didn't see her not her debut, but her Contender Series fight, woman threatened with Gogo Plata in that fight. So she's very active in the grappling department and decent striker as well. So somebody to watch out for at flyweight. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from Karina Silva, and finishing too. That never hurts. So great killer instinct on her. This was about as nice of a debut as you'd want. So Sammy asks, what do you think of that card, Drake? Was kind of flat in terms of names. I can't complain about the finishes, though. Yeah, definitely was lacking in star power, name value, and let's see. I caught this one a little bit late. Let's see. What was the first fight I saw? The one I tuned in for the fight. The first fight I saw when I got to the card was the one before Carolina's fight. I don't remember which one that was even, but yeah, no, I thought it was definitely entertaining to watch, no doubt about it. So can't complain. Jimmy says lack of promotion of 275 was annoying. Yep, sometimes. Well, I mean, they sprinkled some things in there every now and then, but yeah, it wasn't too insane or anything. Makoto says, did you think the commentary was bad this weekend? No, I didn't notice it. And I was watching with some friends though too, so I wasn't paying as much attention as if I was like alone or with just one person. So yeah. Then Ghost doesn't even listen at all. So there you go. You guys be the judges. But yeah, can't comment really this week. What was it? It was Felder and just Anik. So I can't imagine those two would have been too terrible. Or maybe it was, according to Jimmy. His commentary was especially bad, just talking about random stuff, just hanging out, those guys, huh? According to Jimmy, that is. But I mentioned Carolina, so we'll move on to the rematch that no one expected. Karina Kovalkovic defeats Felice Herri, sending her into retirement via second round submission, rear naked choke at 4 minutes and a second. This was a not a solid comeback. I mean, a return to the winning column after 5 straight losses for Carolina, defeating a fighter that she has defeated before. Of course, what her last win was Felice. Her 2 most recent wins sandwich those losses. But again, you look at who she lost to, no shame really in any of those. But yeah, this was a good performance of Carolina. Strong on the feet in the first round. Of course, it wasn't like a complete wash, but I think she definitely, you know, won that round on the feet. I mean, she was the better striker going in. We knew this. Then on the ground, kind of surprised in that second round, getting things down there. It was off. It was off a wizard though, as she was defending from Felice, who we knew kind of probably should have got the fight to the ground as quickly as she could, and at least tried to work her generally better grappling than striking for her. At least I would say, generally speaking. Hadn't seen her in a while, though, obviously. Same with Carolina. They were both in weird spots for this one, back against the wall. And ultimately, though, Carolina showed up and showed out. Was working with some good ground and pound there from the back, and then sunk in the choke. Got the job done. First finish in the UFC. Quite a feel-good moment, snapping a 5-fight losing streak. Questionable for her to, get a fight again even after that, but she did and saves her job for the time being for sure. And I mean, who knows how much longer she wants to keep fighting for. I know she was kind of contemplating retirement. I thought I remember hearing. And now Felice, she is retiring and, probably would have been cut anyway. So it was going to be the last we saw of her. So, yeah, wishing her all the best going into that next adventure and chapter of her career. But it's Carolina's night. So this doesn't tell us a whole lot, about where she can go or get back to in the division. Probably, I would assume, not very far, unfortunately, just because you look at, this matchup, who was against and whatnot, and who else is in the division. Like, it's only getting harder. But we'll see. You never know. Crazier things have happened. Look at Andrei Arlovsky still hanging around. Zgo says this was good for Carolina, but she still doesn't close the door after throwing her right hand. And she has a good right hand and a good clinch. See the Rose fight where she kneed Rose's body. That was a very strong performance in the clinch from Carolina. I pretty much won her that fight, if we're going to be honest. So she'd give a lot of girls trouble if she ended exchanges with a jab or a left hook. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if she can build off that a little bit late in the career, though, of course. As James says, when exactly was this fight made? Seemed like it was short notice. Yeah, they announced it last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, sort of. But I'm sure that they knew about it before then. Had to have. I would have imagined. Jin says, were you happy about this win for KK? Yeah, I mean, again, it was a feel-good moment. 5-fight losing streak. She got real beat up last time against Yan Jiaonan, so this probably made it all the sweeter. But yeah, I've never had anything against Carolina. I've always enjoyed watching her fight, especially, when she was before the losing streak. It was a little bit rough for her during that, though, obviously. But yeah, it was a feel-good moment. So I had nothing wrong with that. Cinder says, what if she fought Vlismas? Carolina, I'm assuming. I think that'd be all right matchmaking, kind of veteran versus prospect for sure. That doesn't seem like the kind of fights that they've been wanting to give Carolina, obviously, in the last so many fights, but I wouldn't be mad at it. Go says, what do you think on short notice fights like that? Well, in those cases, James, it's generally injury related. So if there was no injury, then that's kind of weird. And not a fan of that. But if there's an injury, then it's like, all right, that's your excuse, So, but anyway, there was one more fight. So making pretty solid time here. One more fight that kicked off the show, which disagreeable once again. But Erin Blanchfield gets it done, as she does, defeating JJ Aldrich via second round submission guillotine choke at 238. A little bit similar to Silva's submission in the terms of you give her that opening right there, sinks it in, and that's a wrap. Erin Blanchfield, man, she is something else for 23. Continually impressed by her, though admittedly, JJ was doing pretty well in this fight too, especially on the feet. I think might have edged it out in the first round. Her jab was on point. Some good shots off the breaks when they got in close. So JJ didn't really look too bad here in this one. Got Erin down a couple times, very briefly. She got up real quick. So it didn't really matter too much. And then in the end, there was kind of that slip knockdown that led to this high elbow guillotine, as you see right there. Very, very much pointed upward. And there was just nothing she could do. So woman's a threat. She has some good submission abilities. Black belts at only 23. Once again, I mean, you guys know how I feel about Erin Blanchfield. I think she's the best prospect in the game. And at this point, continues to get closer and closer to shedding that. Just needs to beat a top 15er, I guess you could say. And I'm surprised that they didn't give her one going into this matchup. And they should now, probably. As Ghost says, she's not going to fix that, but she does have skills that are not usual in MA for Carolina. He's talking about. He says, I know that Erin is your girl, but she was getting pieced up on the feet. As I said, yeah, she was definitely not. I think JJ was winning it right there. It says, and with a southpaw jab, which you should be getting hit with, she needs to fix loading up on her right hand for sure. Shouldn't be. Yeah, that's what I thought. He says, good finish. She's all right. Yes, I am still very high on her. And, she's got the grappling base. But JJ, I think we should give credit to her for sharpening up her striking over the years as well. But, hey, you live and you learn. So that was good to see from Erin. Kicking things off, which didn't seem right again. But, hey, get to go home early. So good for her. And we get to see it early. So that's kind of the flip side of that, you could say. But all right, you guys, that was UFC Vegas 56. Another Vegas show in the books as their international for the week. Crazy stuff there. But now we will get to the news, run through all the things that have been happening in terms of signings, fights, you name it. There is a lot that has happened since last Monday. My goodness. Very surprising, honestly. And Alvin says, such a great card. I'm thankful for all the events past and future. Love to hear it, my man. As we get quite a quality drop. Sorry, guys. I just love to see it. Sarcasm. All right. So for the news, we'll kick things off with one of the signings as at bantamweight, multiple-time Muay Thai champion Tainera Lisboa has signed with the UFC. How about that? So if you know who Tainera Lisboa is, I believe that she did some work with Verna Yandrova before the Kanako fight, which I'm pretty sure she didn't after that. And maybe you can see the difference. Not that Verna has, completely declined or anything, but that was obviously an incredible performance she had against Kanako. Very bittersweet, of course, but Lisboa, man, in her last MMA fight, she absolutely murdered the poor girl that she fought. So exciting addition to the roster. And at bantamweight, not at all mad at that. So congratulations to her. No opponent yet, just the news of the signing. So yeah, there we go. As we'll try and breeze through these, like I said, you guys, because there's a lot. So congrats again, Tainera. And all right, we got some Ryzen news this past week. The whole lineup for Ryzen 36, which goes down on July 2nd. We got two fights, but we'll start off with at Super Atomweight, both Super Atomweight fights. Miyu Yamamoto versus Saori Oshima, the Deep Jewels Atomweight and Microweight champion. This is a good one. I like this matchup. Wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with Saori after kind of the weird upset against Hime. But I think this is probably just about right. There was the idea of having her challenge Seka for the title, which wouldn't have been mad at, but it felt a lot stranger after that loss. Like I said, defends her title against Morisuta. who we'll talk about here in just a second, as you can see her fight. And now taking on Miyu, who is kind of needing a win at this point. This is going to be another grappler's delight, a little bit similar to the Kana fight, I think. Saori threatens a little bit more with her submissions than Miyu. I mean, I don't think Miyu has gotten a finish yet in her career, but a very, very good wrestler. Fun to watch regardless. But in terms of who is going to be a little bit more dangerous to work with on the ground, I think that'll be Saori. But we'll see how the size and strength kind of comes into factor here. That could be a big thing, as you know, if you want to go by the MMA math, Miyu did beat Kana. And then, well, I guess it doesn't really affect anything because they both beat Kana. But, you know, if you want to compare those fights, Miyu's was, I don't want to say clearer, but Saori was in worse positions than Miyu was, I guess you could say, if you were to make the kind of matchup comparison. But yeah, I like that fight. Should be good. Love Saori Oshima. Love Miyu. This is one of those where you're like, oh, why does one have to lose? So that sucks. But that's the name of the game. And as for the other fights on the card, we have Mori Suda, who was the last opponent of Saori Oshima, which that fight is on YouTube now. If I think I mentioned that recently, but it's kind of a fight where she just kind of got stuck. She got stuck, of course, very inexperienced. Mori Suda is just 17 years old, taking on Mizuki Nisei Oshiro, who her last fight was her Ryzen debut, right? When she took on Eric Koga. Very fun fight. Pretty competitive. I think Koga maybe should have won that one. You guys know I haven't been too high on Nisei. Has had a couple good wins early on, but other than that, has struggled a bit. And Mori Suda is quite the prodigy, and she's in that Takabayashi category. Has beaten Takabayashi, so there you go. Much more of a grappler, though, of course. And yeah, just kind of got the experience and inexperience kind of showed off in her title shot against Saori Oshima, but still a talented individual. At just 17, a talented girl. She is literally still a kid. So how about that? Should be a good one while it lasts. So not mad at it. Not mad at it. Big fights, you know, to rebound off the loss on a big show like that. So congrats to her for getting the opportunity. As we move on to the next batch of lightweight fights in the PFL, which take place in Atlanta, Georgia on July 1st, along with the welterweights again. I mean, it would make sense timing-wise. As we take a look here at the main event, which is the fight that we all wanted to see going into the tournament. Now it's a little bit interesting, a little more interesting, maybe. Kayla Harris and Julia Budd will be the main event of this card. Julia Budd, of course, one of the best featherweights of all time, was just upset by Jenna Fabian. Started off strong, did Julia, in that fight, and then just kind of went back to some very odd hesitancy. And Kayla just beat Marina Makhnatkina, of course, in the main event of that same card, and was just kind of wasn't her best performance, that's for sure. But now that's what makes this a little bit interesting, yes, because going into the tournament, we're like, Julia's, you know, in that same realm of, well, clearly most experienced that Kayla would have fought, best opponent, and has beaten the best opponents. All these things, you know, it was very clear. Julia Budd was the one here to come on in and give Kayla a big challenge. I think she still can, but I am a lot less confident after the Jenna Fabian fight. I would have believed in Bud before that, but we'll see, you know, how she makes the adjustments. Just something about maybe, I don't know, mental for her, because like I said, she started off good against Fabian, and then in the second round and beyond, just a weird, you know, kind of gun shyness, if you will, came over her, it seemed like. But either way, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's interesting now in a different way. Then we move on to Fabian versus Larissa Pacheco. So that's actually pretty fun fight in terms of the matchup. You know, both strikers. Obviously, Pacheco hits harder than probably anybody in this in the PFL out of the women. Jenna Fabian, though, also hits pretty darn hard. Quite a large woman. Good kickboxing, and showed off some, solid grappling improvements in her last fight too. Martina, as we mentioned there, and taking on Abby Montez, who arguably should have got that win over Elena Kaleznick. That should be a very fun fight. Grappling edge probably goes to Martina with the sambo. Has potential to go all over the place. That one, not mad at it. Martina Yandrova versus Zamza Ghoul. Didn't really get to see too much of what Zamza Ghoul is capable of in this one, in her last fight against Pacheco. So she'll get an opportunity against Yandrova, who is also a great striker. But she does, of course, have the judo background and whatnot. So she is grappling heavy more often than not. And then Kaleznick versus Vanessa Melo. That one's going to be something. Don't really want to talk about that one. But yeah, that is the PFL 2022 6 event going down on July 1st. So just a couple weeks away. Kind of crazy how little time between events that they really do have. Like, doesn't feel like it was that long ago when, what was it, April? April or what, May? I don't even know. But it was recently of that Kayla fought and that they all fought, right? So, all right, moving on to one of the debutants that is making their debuts coming up here. But featherweight fights, Zara Fairn taking on Aylin Perez at UFC Paris on September 3rd. Not too surprising is that, considering what Fairn is French. And Perez, I honestly don't know about her. So a 145er, though, and this isn't the only featherweight fight that we will talk about, but we don't have to talk about them too much because I'm still not sold, but this is an interesting kind of development to see them booking these fights right now at 145 pounds. This is kind of the most movement we've maybe seen or attempt at them doing something with this division in a good while. So I might have to recheck the count, but who knows? Maybe we've gotten past 8 fighters, because there was a point where that was like the most they'd ever had in the division. We'll see if we're there now, but it's probably close, having seen who has come and gone. But yeah, that fight is happening. That's all we can say about it. And I guess we could say that about some of these as well, but some of these other ones. At strawweight, Hannah Cifers is back, and she welcomes Super Melly, Melissa Martinez, to the UFC on September 10th. Location to be determined for that fight night. And shout out to our pal in the chat every now and then, Litchfield Scott, who broke the news on this one. Very exciting to have Super Melly in the UFC. As you guys know, she was one of Steve's always, prospects to watch. Former Combache America's champion. Even though her last fight was one hell of a robbery against Desiree Yanez in 2019. So she hasn't fought since then. It's very just kind of off the grid in general. But now she's coming in here at 7-0. Should be 6-1. Taking on Hannah Cifers, who it's been a while since we've seen Hannah, but we know that she's on a bit of a rough streak. And you would have to think this is definitely her last chance as well, because it's been a rough skid. But she was taking a lot of short notice fights. So maybe a good thing that she took some time away. Maybe we'll see a new Hannah Cifers. You never know. She's another one of those that would be fit for atomweight, but has to worry about Super Melly in the meantime. So good to see her get the call up, even though it's been quite a gap of activity. Don't know what's been going on with her. So look forward to that, though, on September 10th. Good young fighter to finally have around. And then we get back to the featherweight division. As I said, Leah Letson will be welcoming Chelsea Chandler to the UFC now on October 1st. So they're booking way in advance here. Seems kind of crazy to book a fight in October. And, I've noticed this with Leah Letson is that her fights get announced so early, and I don't know why. At least the Spencer one did, from what I remember. And that was her last fight, right? And she got absolutely pieced up in that fight before Felice retired. And Chelsea has been a pretty bright spot at featherweight in Invicta, but her last fight, a little bit lackluster, in my opinion. Could have been a better performance to get a UFC contract off of, but this is kind of interesting, to see the UFC making these kind of signings. I still think they should just give up, let Bellator have everybody, because what in the hell is the point right now when you have people like Danielle Wolf fighting Norma Dumont? Makes me want to rip my hair out. So we'll leave it at that, because I never like to talk about the fake featherweight division. Nothing against you, the fighters, personally, just the kind of everything around it. But all right, then we get to another very bittersweet bit of news overall, as BVB, the former Brianna Van Buren, Brianna Fortino, is injured again, and she's out of her fight with Jessica Penne. But to save the day is the Invicta FC champ herself, Emily Ducote, who was signed with the UFC as a replacement for July 16th, UFC Long Island. How about that? We knew it was coming. Emily Ducote in the UFC after yet another great performance, defending the title against Alicia Zappatella recently. What, on that same card as both Chandler and someone else we talked about earlier that I don't even remember at this point. But yeah, knew it was a matter of time. Emily Ducote has turned into one hell of a fighter since going to strawweight. I mean, very, very good. And in my opinion, probably right at that 15th spot worldwide at strawweight. Has just looked phenomenal. You guys know, I've been following this journey. That I'll never forget the Danielle Taylor knockout. Great performance against Moranjan before that. Pretty competitive fight with Kanako, but it's Kanako, so what you gonna do? And I know some people will argue in the other direction there, but let's not get into that. And then the Zappatella win was solid indeed. And Jessica Penne, though, why do they gotta keep matching her up in these fights where I don't want either of them to lose? That kind of sucks, but stylistically, I think this should be very fun and a good challenge, honestly, for Ducote if this inevitably either hits the ground or Penne finds her way to Ducote's back, because she just has a way of doing that. Jessica Penne is a master of getting onto people's backs from pretty much anywhere. So I'm looking forward to it. Sucks that one's got to lose, but hey, former Invicta champs going at it. I like it. I'm happy to see both of them getting to still fight. And yeah, not too short of notice for Ducote. I mean, not ideal, but she didn't take too much damage against Zappatella. So welcome to the UFC, to Emily Gordina. So, and she gets a crowd. She gets a crowd for her UFC debut, just like old times. Isn't it funny that we have to say that like it's a weird thing, but gets to kick things off there. So that's fun. That is a fun little element to it. And all right, last bit of news for the day before we get to UFC 275. So I've timed this out pretty well, you guys. I'm proud of myself, and we'll get to the comments. Don't you worry. Just want to zoom through all this. As at flyweight, Alexa Grasso versus Viviane Araujo has been rebooked and added to the August 13th UFC Fight Night event. I believe this is also supposed to be co-main event, which is fine, totally fine, considering where they are in the division. I love this fight so much, especially after their last performances, which they were supposed to fight each other in their last fights, but then they ended up having different fights. Obviously, Grasso versus Jojo Calderwood. Just Wood now, right? And then Araujo defeating Andrea Lee in what I think was probably her best performance. I love this matchup. I think it's going to be awesome. If Araujo can continue to look like the way she did in her last fight and build off of that, very, very dangerous opponent. That is a title threat. Grasso clearly doing kind of the same thing. They're both evolving exactly the ways that you want to see them. And for Grasso, again, one of those fighters who I've said when she is on, Like, she has championship potential. Look at that Carolina fight. Yes, I know. Carolina, who we've talked about, and it was during that skid, but my goodness, the Agrasso in that fight looked like a champion. Um, and now she's adding all these new wrinkles to her game. Has yet to be like kind of outstruck, I would say, in her career. I'd have to go and look back at some things, at least in terms of striking on the feet. Of course, she has lost. We've seen this, but if anybody's going to give it to her, it's going to be Araujo. I love this matchup. I am all for it. And for August, not too far away from, let's say, depending on what happens here this week with the fight that we will talk about, which how embarrassing, I actually forgot to put the title fight this weekend on the lineup. That is hilarious. And on the cover, that just shows you where everyone's minds has been, I guess. That is kind of funny. All over the place. Let me type it in real quick. Shame on me. You think I know what's going on in the world, don't you? But where was I? Yes, I was talking about depending on what happens this weekend and the timing of things. This fight, you would think 100% title shot for whoever wins, and especially if Hero versus Chukagian does happen in September. If Hero wins, she would be behind the winner of this, you would think. So yeah, kind of a mini tournament in a way, it feels like, but love that fight. I really do. I think it's going to be a good one. Happy to see it rebooked. It's more exciting even after the fact now, after things fell through. So yeah, I am excited for that. And you should be too, in my opinion. Let me pull up the actual Tapology thing here for that fight that I missed on the lineup. That's so funny that I can't believe that. Embarrassing. Anyway, let's see. What is everybody saying now? I'll send it here. Hello from the USA. Good to see you from Facebook as well. Appreciate you tuning in. Rain says Amanda Hebus, head coach, said that Zhang Whaley and Amanda Hebus had a bout set up, but I looked up on Tapology that it was never scheduled. Why lie like that? Is that clout chasing? No, Rain. I mean, that very well could have been possible. And Tapology just didn't know about it, or anybody else did. Like, that's very much the case. Like, Tapology doesn't know right when like the UFC makes things. They figure out by themselves or whatever, or from news sources and whatnot. So very well could have been true. Not sure. Unless you ask from, you have to hear from both sides, right? So might not be a lie. We only have half the side of the story so far. As James says, I saw your interview with Vanessa Demopoulos. How can you defend that performance by those two? Let's be honest, that was one of the worst fights in history. Oh, Rose and Carla too. I mean, it wasn't necessarily defending, but I don't know. A lot of just trying to be positive here, right? And take as much as you can out of it. And like I said, when it did happen, I was intrigued the whole time just because of kind of how it was unraveling. Yes, it was not a great fight by any means, but in terms of some of the other bad fights, like I feel the ones I mentioned, Yoel and Adesanya and Ngannou and Lewis, I feel like even less happened in those fights. Like, they're all bad. They're all objectively bad, but yeah, is what it is, James. And Rue says Kanako versus Hill or Kanako versus Vlismas. Boy, the UFC would really not like Angela if they were to do that to her. But that one would be better for Kanako in terms of name value. Vlismas wouldn't. I mean, it's a weird spot. She's coming off a loss, so they can go either way. If I had my preference, doesn't really matter. I think Kanako will probably beat both if I had to predict, but I see what you're doing, Rue. I know you don't like either of those fighters. Jin says tension for stock group better be happening. Should. Certainly should. But like I said, I won't believe it till it happens, till they're in the ring. And everyone was like, oh, don't say that. Like, why would I not at this point? As Jimmy says, isn't Miyu like 50 years old and a really talented wrestler? She is, I want to say 48, 47-ish now. And yes, a very talented wrestler. One of the best atomweights in the world, regardless of age, the ageless wonder. She truly is. She truly is. It's crazy. And she can beat Oshima. She can. As Craig is here. Hi, I can't wait to talk about UFC 275. Well, it's coming up, my friend. Good to see you. Cincher says, how come there wasn't a poll the first 3 times you fought Jed on BTL? I'm sure you would have dominated each time. I mean, hey, we'll never know. But I don't know. That was just for the first so many episodes. And I mean, when Mike started BTL, they never did the poll. So I'm imagining maybe people got mad at how it was judged before, and then they decided to switch to the poll. But I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, Central. It's a question for Mike or Casey, I guess. As Jen says, did you see the results of each round on BTL? I saw. I mean, obviously, as I got the win, and thank you, Zhao. But no, I didn't focus on any of the comments, or I can't see the poll results as they're happening. So I waited till the end that time. As Kimball is here, good to see you. She says, hello, Drake. Do you like to watch UFC cards with a group of friends? Last time I had a group of friends over, they were obnoxious what the fighters made me sad. Yes, I remember you telling me about that, Kimball. It depends on kind of the card. Like for fight nights, I'll generally watch by myself most times, and then pay-per-views depends, kind of up in the air. Sammy says, I really like the single style of WMMA Mania compared to WMMA Today with 2 people. No offense, Steve. Well, all right, none taken. It's your opinion. Appreciate it, though. Sorry, Steve. No offense, though. As James says, is Cyphers versus Martinez a layup for Martinez? Don't like that if that is the case. I mean, I would say so if she wasn't coming off a 3-year layoff, James, and a fight that she should have lost. Like the Yanez fight, it was a total robbery. Like, go and watch that one if you haven't seen it. It is on YouTube, and it's upsetting. It's upsetting, one of those kind of decisions. But so with all that in mind, I would say no. But obviously one of the quote unquote easier matchups she could have got for her debut. Alex says, Perez is a natural bantamweight. All of her fights except 2 have been there. She's had 1 fight at featherweight and 1 at flyweight. It's going to be another one of those cases. Oh, great, Alex. Thank you. You exposed exactly what the UFC is doing then, which is just wanting Zara Farron, a French fighter, to fight on the card. So good job, my man, with your detective work there. I hadn't got a chance to do my own, but that tells us everything. She will be at bantamweight after that fight. That's for sure. So that is just to have French people, a French fighter, another one on the card, having an opponent in Farron. As Esther is here, says UFC 275. I'm going to be there Thursday for the press conference. Awesome. Take some pictures and have a good time. Says go Whaley, Whaley, Jayu. Very nice. Have fun. Jealous. Jin says, Dakota has my thanks for knocking out Taylor. Taylor should have just given up when Whaley took her down in the first round. Ridiculous take. Jumbo says, hello, Esther. A lot of my friends from Macau also coming. Couldn't go, but rooting for Zhang. Right. Cool. Rain says, large news week this week. Very much so. As Michael Weissel is here. Good to see you. Do you know if there will be a way to watch Tenshin Takaru in America? I'm getting asked about this a lot, and I'm expecting yes, really. But also, if you have a VPN, you guys, you can watch that way too by setting your location to Japan. And yes, it's jumping through hoops and whatnot, but you can technically watch it in America always. But there's going to be an international option. I'm expecting. And oh, Jimmy, stop it. It's just too kind, but also double-edged. So, all right, you guys, right at the 50-minute mark here. Good stuff. As we get to UFC 275, the card we've all been waiting for. 4 fights from the ladies, 2 title fights overall. Some good stuff here. And we're kicking off with 2 back-to-back, actually. This card will open with 2 fights from the women. And the first one will be at featherweight. Which is kind of an interesting little note. But Ramona Pascual with her second UFC fight, taking on Jocelyn Edwards. And it is interesting for this to be featherweight for 2 reasons. Well, I guess just kind of one, because the only reason it's at featherweight is for Ramona, because Jocelyn has made bantamweight in the UFC every time with no problem, right? But it's also interesting because of the fact that Ramona's had plenty of time to potentially fight at bantamweight, which is where she wants to be at, has said she wants to be at anyway. So I don't know, maybe she's hoping to get a win first, who knows? But interesting odds here to see, as we got Ramona as the plus 150 slight underdog to the minus 170 slide favorite there from Jocelyn, right in the 2-fight losing streak after the Jessie Jess one and then the Carol Hossa one. No shame in either of those. Ramona then, of course, the Josiane Nunes performance was a little bit of a rough one there. Short notice, so would expect a sharper Ramona for sure in this one. Yeah, I'm going to have slight length disadvantages here. As you can see, the reach 70 to 66 and just 1 inch of height. But if we're to go off of Jocelyn's last 2 performances, the grappling has been kind of her biggest weakness. Pretty solid striker. She fights along with her striking, puts together some solid combinations, but got pretty much wrestled at will against Jessie Jess. And then Carol mixed up her game pretty well too, but majorly dominated with her grappling. And Ramona can do the same thing. Just a matter of getting in on Jocelyn, which I think will certainly be possible. We know she puts together some good combinations. Got the whole inside low kick in her back pocket, which Ghost loves, and getting a whole lot of traction here. Let's see. Real quick, just want to check in. Jin asks, can you record Tension versus Taku for us? That is possible, I suppose, but all right, well, we will get back to this in a moment. But with Ramona and Jocelyn Edwards, I think also the weight, I don't know how much a factor that will play, again, as this specifically you can tell is tailor-made for Ramona, at least in that regard. And she was taking some big shots there from Josiane Nunes, but Josiane obviously hits very hard, and Ramona was able to survive, which was, quite frankly, pretty stunning. So unless the chin has been cracked, I think she'll be able to hold up in any instances there. I mean, Jocelyn hasn't shown to be too much of a knockout artist, despite, some good striking abilities there. Obviously the Wu Yanan fight was a good debut for her. And I mean, if you do want to look at the Carol one, she turned around pretty quickly in that one as well. Then took some time before the Jessie fight. She knows what she needs to work on. That's what makes it interesting, is that takedown and wrestling defense. And Ramona, pretty comfortable on her feet as well. So I think the flow of this fight will kind of just be wherever it ends up, if that makes sense. Could see some clinch control. Edwards trying to utilize that. But it's quite a unique fight with all the elements going into it. As Jin asks, does it make you angry that Whaley didn't take any sort of interviews for US media or English-speaking media to build up the fight? Doesn't make me angry, Jin. No, it doesn't make me angry, but it's sad, I guess. Would have liked to see it and would have liked to be one of them, but it is what it is. So no, I understand all of those things. Centro says Angela Hill said that Whaley never put Rose in danger but I saw Whaley hurt Rose in the second round. That is true. I recall that as well. Centro says Mount Rose at the end of the third. Also true. Then took her back in the fourth, but got reversed. Why make up stuff like that? I guess I don't know about making it up, but her perspective of that not being a certain type of danger, I don't know. Ruth says, been watching a bunch of previews concerning Whaley versus Joanna 2. When Whaley doesn't talk to the media, does it give the media a right just to make assumptions about her? I mean, technically, make assumptions about anybody and whoever they want, but no, just because someone's not doing media doesn't. The assumption would be that they're just focusing more on themselves, like see that all the time. But other things, like they're sensitive or whatever, that's dumb because she still is posting things. But, James says, go Ramona. Jumbo says, is this going to be big in the U.S.? A group of my friends in Macau bought tickets 3 weeks ago to attend this event live to see Whaley specifically. Very cool. Yeah, it's a big fight card. 2 title fights, like I said. Can't not love Yuri. Glover is, has been around a while. Valentina is popular. Just a good card overall, too. I think it'll be a big show. Feels like a big show. Could feel bigger, but Jimmy says, I've seen people say about this fight that Whaley is not motivated, but Joanna has been working hard. Is that because Joanna has been more accessible? Yes. Whaley not being motivated, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the more people see, then the more conclusions they can draw, of course. So, all right, what do we got here? I'll get to that in a second. Ghost says, Ramona, love her striking, intercepting knee she hit on Nunes was very promising. This is her comeback fight. Yes, her knees were phenomenal in that fight. And I feel like could have given her that first round. Those were some solid work from Rona. I think her best strike in that fight. Indeed. So, all right. Let me address this really quick. We got a lot here from Anna Beth Brennan. Appreciate it here. Potentially. Let me see what we're working with as I close the tabs real quick. A lot of engagement. I see you guys are all ready to get to the fight. I know. But bear with me. As Anna says, hello, Drake Riggs. I'm an opinion writer and wrote the piece, Is it Asian hate or fear of Asian success? Zhang Weili's political strife. And I'd love to hear your advice on the topic. Well, loaded one, it sounds like. I'm curious to read it. But she says, I mentioned in the article that Zhang Weili would be liked more if she criticized her home country, as she only says positive things about China, and it feels forced. Does it though? I was giving her advice to speak up on some of the issues in her country so she would be liked by the Western audience, as that is what her contemporaries, such as Rose Namajunas, has done by speaking out against things she does not agree with. I was angrily mobbed by a large portion of her fan base saying that politics have no space in sport. What are your thoughts? I would prefer not to get into politics right now or ever. I really am not a big political person myself. But that is an opinion. Politics technically what they're in everything, right? So I think I will leave it at that. I will respectfully not comment too much on that, just because it's obviously always heated. But feel free to message me privately. We could talk all about it there. But that's not something I generally like to go into too much whatsoever. And I know that can be difficult sometimes, though. As Jin says, what do you think of the notion that people keep saying ESPN specifically, that Rose is the better fighter than Carla, and that's why she deserves a rematch over Whaley or Joanna? That is complete and utter nonsense. If that is being said, that's very stupid. Very stupid. And even if potentially true, that doesn't mean you deserve a rematch when you just lost. And in the way that you lost, there's a lot of things. Dumb, plain and simply. Citrus says, why does Rose and Joanna always get softballed by the media and praised by the media? I don't know. They've been around longer. I don't know. So it's getting a little bit tired, though, guys. Yeah. Jersey says, hi, I saw this on Dan Tom's Twitter. He said that Whaley's push was artificial and it hurt her career in the long run by taking matchups she's not ready for. What do you think of that take? I love Dan Tom. I do. I have nothing wrong with the guy. But that seems odd that her push was artificial and it hurt her career in the long run. I mean, taking a matchup she's not ready for doesn't seem accurate when she won them. She's won them all except for the last two. The only problem potentially was that instant rematch with Rose. And I told you guys why that was a problem, because if she lost, then it's going to take her presumably a long time to get back to a title shot. And she'll be in a weird limbo area if Rose was the state champion, kind of like Holly Holm and whatnot. But now, luckily for her, Carla has become the champ. And so she could fight for the title after this. That would be the only thing that has kind of been misdirected or misguided or stupidly done by the UFC, in regards to her, but all business stuff, right? As James says, how come people were happy that Rose won a controversial split decision against Zhang, while in 2020 they were angry that Zhang was given the nod against Joanna? I don't think they were that mad. From what I saw, most people definitely thought that Whaley rightfully won that fight, from what I remember seeing. Okay, you guys, let's we'll finish this up here with more of these, but we do have one fight between. So let's talk about Liangnam versus Sylvana Gomez Juarez a little bit first, because that is happening, and I'm very excited to see Liangnam back. It has been a while since her debut against Ariane Carnelossi, right? That was over a year ago now, full year practically. That great opening fight, UFC 261. And now she's taking on Sylvana, who's still seeking that first UFC victory. And I've been high on Sylvana, but it has been a rough start to the UFC. She got completely outworked by Lupita in her debut. Armbarred in less than 2 minutes, right? And then armbarred again by Vanessa Demopoulos after rocking her on the feet. So tough two fights there for Sylvana. And she's still a favorite, though, which I think is absolutely absurd. This is one of those matchups here, and I like both of these girls a lot. I do. I've spoken to both of them. So this is a bittersweet one, that somebody's got to lose and extend a losing streak. But it is very crazy to me and very ignorant of the odds makers to have Liangnam as the underdog, in this fight. And I hear the reach advantages, by the way. 63 to 67 for Liang. She is a very lengthy fighter, of course. That's strawweight, 5'5". I guess that's not super long, but I guess compared to some, at least in this one with Sylvana. Sylvana, I think, will have the striking edge. As we've seen, she does pack power, has some very good leg kicks, just puts her combination together well. She's got some sharp technique and backs it up with what she's packing. But Liangnam is also not a terrible striker. And like I said, long. She stunned Ariane right out the gate in their fight with the first punch. But she's primarily got a grappling base. So if we're to go off of the past two performances here from Sylvana, that could be trouble. That could be trouble for her. She'll want to keep this on the feet. And, we've seen Liangnam struggle a bit at times in certain fights with some, but we didn't really get to see too much of her current status against Ariane, but she is an absolute finisher on the ground, as we can see there. Those were all practically, obviously, submissions, but she finishes on the ground with strikes too. So if she gets on top of Sylvana or even winds up on her back for some reason, she's going to be at an advantage there. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. And, still just 25 for Dragon Girl. Fantastic nickname. But yeah, it's not a striker versus grappler matchup necessarily, but their strengths definitely lie there. But I think they're both capable enough to fight. At least Liangnam. Sylvana has really kind of struggled with the grappling recently, and I think she'll want to avoid getting too close to Na. in most situations here. But yeah, I like that one. I'm looking forward to seeing how she bounces back too, because she's a rather confident lady, and it'll be interesting. She's friends with Ramona, and they're fighting back to back. So I wonder if I'm sure they'll get some training this week too. So yeah, that is a strawweight affair. By the way, if you could not read, but all right, let's get back to it. And might as well just pop it up now. The next fight is the rematch. Zhang Whaley versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2, which I should probably put the 2 on there, but it's all right. We got it on the screen. That's all the questions and concerns, of course, about this one. Let's see. So Rain says on Morning Combat, they said that Rose deserves a rematch versus Carla, and that you are a hipster if you think Rose lost versus Zhang. Thoughts? That's silly. I mean, well, then they are saying that most people are, because again, if you go to MMADecisions.com, more people do think that Whaley won that fight. And again, it all hinges on that third round. It's incredibly close. So that is kind of surprising from Luke, if he kind of said that. But yeah, no, I don't agree. Stu says, I have seen people say this is a tune-up fight for Joanna since she's completely outstruck Whaley the first time. I don't know where you guys are seeing these things, or if you're like seeking out negativity or bullshit, because I have not seen anybody say that, and that's ludicrous to say. What do we got here? Let's look right now, Rue. What are the odds? Joanna's the underdog. So yeah, I don't know who the fuck is where you're seeing this shit, because it is just like ridiculous to me. And if wherever you're going to see this stuff, you guys should stop, okay? Because it's not worth your time and energy, because I think it's clearly not most agreed upon. I mean, aside from, let's say, ESPN or Morning Combat opinions, whatever you're seeing, like, all right, that's whatever. You can watch whatever you want to watch. But if these are just like random people commenting who clearly don't know what they're talking about, avoid that. It's healthier to do that. And that's why I probably don't see any of it. As Anna asks, how do I reach you? I'd like to have a conversation. It does not involve name attacked by our friends. You could, if you have Twitter, Anna, or anything like that, at Drake Riggs _, or go to mmania.com, and my profile has stuff on it as well. So yes, there you go. As Jumbo says, have you ever done an interview with Whaley in person? I read your the Whaley story, but there's no video of the interview. I have not talked to Whaley in person. No, just aside from the stuff for UFC 268, and I don't think she didn't do anything for 261. But I was at both of her last fights. So yeah, did talk with her in those environments, but not like a sit down next to each other, one-on-one type of thing. Would certainly love to, but you guys know it's difficult. As Go says, hey, Sylvana, she got armbarred by a girl who was practicing that same armbar at Fight Ready. Yep, practice makes perfect. As Karen says, hi, Drake, what is Whaley's path to victory? I have seen on multiple media outlets that she was dominated in the striking in the last fight with Joanna and Rose. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Where are these? I want to know where you guys are finding these types of things, because and Karen says, I'm not an expert, but I thought she won because of her striking. Exactly. See, you already know where I'm going with this, and that it's not true. So like, what is going on, you guys? You need some new resources, because this is absurd. No, I mean, yeah, Whaley, there was barely any wrestling or grappling whatsoever in that first fight, like outside of a random quick takedown that Whaley, or trip that she hit in like round 2, right? If I'm remembering correctly. I know she hit one at least, and they didn't last whatsoever. I don't even know if Joanna went down. She might drop to her knees, but yes, Whaley very clearly can win striking only again. I mean, she had Joanna hurt badly in that second round, and I do think could have finished her if she kind of poured on a little bit more, but Joanna retreated very well. In this fight, I mean, yeah, she can win in the exact same way, but I think just because of the improvements that Whaley has made and being a smart fighter with a good IQ, as we've seen, just simply based off that last performance against Rose, and her willingness to follow the game plan and utilize wrestling in critical moments. Um, I think she'll mix in at least threats of takedowns and make Joanna worry about them a little bit more than definitely the first fight. Didn't really have to whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know if Whaley will. I doubt she will try to completely wrestle her the entire time, but I think we will see definitely more glimpses of it than in the first fight, um, which I'm sure will aggravate some people because they want to see that war unfold once again. But Joanna, again, hasn't fought since then, so not sure how much that could have helped or hurt. And then it's kind of that argument to be made, right? Where maybe it was good to take a break and not get hit in the face, whereas that's what Whaley has been doing, has been fighting and taking damage to an extent that is more than Joanna, right? As Jimmy says, people keep making fun of Whaley's fight IQ, but Ghost, Kenshin, and Jack Sack said she was doing clever things. Is that because Rose and Joanna keep driving the narrative that she is not tactical? Probably for whatever reason. I don't know. Because like I just said right there, it was objectively good. It worked, didn't it? She got those takedowns. Eunice says, "Hi Drake. Wow, so much Whaley talk. So much Whaley talk. Is she going to be a big superstar for this fight? She's already a superstar. You know this. But if she wins again, yeah, that wouldn't hurt. I mean, pay-per-view, especially if the fight's great. I mean, she's already a very big star. I think that's very clear. And he says, I'm seeing this stuff. Seen this on stuff that on women's channels. Is that wrong? I don't watch them, Rue, so I would recommend not doing it for the most part, just because there's not a lot out there, but some of the ones that have seen in the past, not very many, admittedly, but the ones they've been not great, and that's kind of how I ended up finding them, was because I was told, "Oh, look at these guys being dumb," and I was like, "Oh, well, I don't want anything to do with that." And Jin says, what is your reaction to Whaley's reaction to being confused to why Rose is helping Joanna? I don't know. I don't really have much of a reaction to that when I saw it. I really don't. There's nothing. Yeah, I just don't have a thought on it. It is what it is, I guess. Of course, maybe a little bit abnormal compared to what we generally see, but yeah. As Karen says, I was watching DC and RC show and also Morning Combat. Okay, so funny thing with DC and RC is, I don't know if Daniel purposefully gives terrible takes these days, but then Ryan Clark is a football player and straight up just an MMA fan. So I would not ever put too much stock into his opinion. Not to say that I'm better than him or anything, or some other people are, but if he's saying these types of things, yeah. As Sammy says, should Whaley pressure Joanna? I don't think so. She doesn't. I mean, when you say pressure, it makes me think of really be aggressive, and we've seen in the past that is not typically a great way to fight Joanna. The best example is the Jessica Andrade fight. Honestly, if Whaley just tries to replicate exactly how the first fight went, she should be fine. Obviously, not the smartest approach, not the because you typically don't want to get into wars like that for many reasons. But she could. I mean, she could still win that way, but it's I don't think she has to change up too much, other than refining past game plans and just overall skill set, weapons and whatnot, And James says, what are some weapons Whaley can use to get an advantage besides grappling? Well, we saw those side kicks were pretty nice in that fight. I mean, she used everything very nicely in that fight. And for Joanna, it's interesting because I think that if she tries to clinch a little bit more, maybe a lot bit more, work some Muay Thai there, get her, if she can get Whaley against the cage, which is not typically ever something we really do against her, but kind of close the distance and make then her think about that. But it also then opens up that ability for Whaley to take her down. You know what I mean? So it's just always, I think, a tough matchup for Joanna here. Even though, yes, she was of course able to be competitive in the last fight, but um, you know, Whaley just has a more overall skill set, more tools in the toolbox, if you will. And Joanna has been talking about, hey, I've been working on my wrestling too, but we all know she isn't going to go for any takedowns or anything herself. I mean, if she does, that would be very, very impressive and smart of her to do, just to even throw it out there, but that would be surprising. That would be surprising. As Rue says, have you heard this narrative? Whaley is Andrade 2.0. Well, that's not a bad thing. Andrade is doing pretty well right now. So if that's supposed to be an insult, then those people are dumb as well. Cinder says, does the long layoff hurt Joanna? Again, like I said, it could hurt or help. I mean, it all depends on the fighter, and if the recovery time, but then it's also like how much you were working in that time to make yourself better, which doesn't seem like she was very much. It's hard to say. It is certainly hard to say. And I mean, she's taken some gaps a little bit, but not as long as this one. And Centro asks, has it hurt other fighters before? Yes, it has. The long layoff. Yeah, there's definitely plenty of cases of ring rust working negatively. And Jin says, isn't Whaley's clinch striking just as dangerous as her striking? Yes, that is a great point too. But yeah. So I mean, if Joanna can get the advantageous positions in the clinch, so then she's gambling there too, because then she's opening herself up to the elbows and then the knees in counter. It's a gamble, right? And I think that's a little bit why we didn't see it too much there in that first fight. As Go says, do you think training at Thailand near the same time zone and climate as Singapore is smart? So we talked about that a little bit last week. Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting yourself acclimated for jet lag and all that, I think that's a very big deal. Maybe not a very big deal, but it certainly helps to be all locked in those ways. Make yourself feel as good as you can in all ways. And Go says, and she was training with the Hickman Bros and Josh Hinger. Have you heard of them? Heard of the Hickman Bros? Josh Hinger is a wrestler, right? I believe. Not as familiar with him, but yeah, I know the Hickmans. They I don't know them personally, but yeah, I know they train with a lot of the Australian guys, right? Because they are Australian themselves, aren't they? So, wish this fight was 5 rounds. Really do, but we'll take the 3. And I mean, I guess that's something we should talk about too. The 3 rounds, I think, benefits Whaley a little bit as well. Not because of any cardio potential issues there, because we've seen that doesn't matter for either of these women. I mean, Joanna's gas tank is absolutely insane. Maybe one of the best ever. Like, my goodness, that woman does not fade. Whaley hasn't had problems with fading as fights go on, but I think if Whaley does implement a game plan that does involve mixing in the wrestling, or at least fakes and threats of wrestling, like I've been saying, their takedowns and whatnot, then with less time, and if she does get Joanna down, there you go. That will be very helpful for a fight that has less time. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We shall see. As Karen says, I saw the first fight. There were some unique takedowns from Whaley that I don't understand. LOL. Yeah, like I said, some very brief, like trip type things that she was doing in that one at the end of the rounds, from what I remember. But that was about it. There was really almost no grappling exchanges in that fight. As Ghost says, well, Josh is the IBJJF 2019 champ of jiu-jitsu, and I've rolled with him before and got guillotined like 5 times. Okay, never mind. So I knew he was a grappler. All right, but that's impressive. Sounds like a good fella in that department. So Who knows? Maybe we'll see Whaley slap on a flying triangle. We'll see. But all right, you guys. I think we'll move on from it there. Feel free to ask some more stuff as well. But we do have the title fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Tainera Santos in the co-main event of UFC 275. Will Tainera be the one to dethrone the perfect bullet? I mean, you can't say that about anybody, can you? But and we're sitting here at, hey, I mean, these are closer odds than we've seen for Valentina typically, right? Minus 630, which is, yes, quite a big favorite, to the plus 450. Tainera Santos is what it is. That's just where we're at this point with Valentina. And I mean, rightfully so. But as we talked about last week as well, a little bit, Tainera Santos was somebody that I really was not sold on whatsoever coming into the UFC. And one of the most padded records of all time. If you look at the combined record of her opponents when she was 15-0 or whatever, it is quite frankly embarrassing. And then she loses a split decision to Romero Barella. Yeah, fairly close, but I was fine with that decision there. But then after that, she completely proves me wrong, wins me a ticket for sure. That solid win against Molly, dominates her in the grappling, mostly out-wrestles her. Jillian Robertson exposes her completely as well by pretty much wrestling her too and showing that Jillian can only kind of work off top. It's about where she's best. Defeats Roxy. Looks great everywhere in that one. Also out-wrestles Roxy, which that's the biggest surprise here because Tainera Santos is a great Muay Thai fighter. And then the JoJo fight last time out. Pieces her up on the feet. First person to knock down JoJo and then submits her on the ground. Just like a surprising development from Tainera to really show that she is capable of doing everything. Like that's the type of well-roundedness and high fight IQ that you want to see from somebody. I mean, I don't even know if it's high fight IQ because I'm sure that she could have beaten all these fighters with her striking, but she decided not to, right? That's what I really love to see. And especially against somebody like, let's say, Jillian, who people probably gave the edge to in that fight. I mean, that was fair. I probably did too. Black belt she is, has plenty of submissions. Roxy, same thing. Another BJJ black belt and as experienced as literally anybody. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a very impressive 4-fight winning streak here. In terms of how she fought, people I've had arguments with about the names, but in hindsight, I mean, some of these have gotten a little bit better, at least the Molly McCann win. And I mean, when you look at Tainera physically too, I mean, just a big flyweight. She's going to have the advantages here over Valentina with 68 inches to 65 and a half on the reach, and then just an inch on height, 5'6" to 5'5". I think it's possible that she can at least replicate a similar performance to Jennifer Maia, who everyone was like, oh my God, she won a round against Valentina. And Tainera Santos has fought a lot better than Jennifer lately, which hurts me to say, but just for Jennifer's sake. But yeah, I think she's done good, and she's got that style and the smarts to be that you need to beat Valentina. Will she? I can't say that. I cannot say that will happen, and it shouldn't be considered really. But I think Tainera Santos will do pretty well in this fight, especially if you consider how people typically do against Valentina. I think she will hold her own and hang in there. Could be way wrong because that is also very possible. It's just what Valentina does. But Valentina Shevchenko does literally everything perfectly. So it's like, what can you really say about her? You know that she can do it all. So I feel like there's not much to break down or preview for her because you guys, we've already seen it. We've already seen her do everything exceptionally. That Lauren Murphy fight last time, 8 months ago now. That's crazy. Was there for that one. So I was cage side for that one. So that was very sharp performance from Valentina. The Jessica Andrade one was there for that one too. Stunning, just ragdolled her. I mean, kind of has been fighting how John Jones used to, where he would beat people at what they're best at. And I guess he kind of has still tried to do that later in his career. But if that is the case, if she tries to do that again, I mean, I don't really know where the fight would go because, like I said, Tyla has proven she can do it all now. So I'm intrigued by it. I really am intrigued by this fight. I'm glad that it was made. I think Tyla earned her title shot. I like her abilities, and I think her abilities and skill set are the combination that you need to potentially dethrone Valentina. Will she? There's no way of knowing till it happens. But I like it. I like what I've seen from Tyler Santos. So Ghost says, I know you don't want to hear it, but as good as Valentina is, she can't phase through walls. So important that Santos pressures her near the fence and capitalizes on it. Yes, that is fair, a fair assessment. I think, again, that she has shown she's capable of at least trying to do that. I mean, practically how she won those first three for the most part, a little bit, And if you look at Valentina versus Nunes 2, I mean, Amanda did some of that throughout that fight, right, as best as she could. As Jimmy asks, what weapons can Santos use to close the distance? Well, I think, man, that's such a tricky question with somebody like Valentina who moves the way she does and counters the way that she does. But, if she can try to cut her off while like jabbing in, maybe feinting some jabs in, it's tricky though, man. That's tough to imagine. Like, I feel like with Valentina also, because of how great of a counter striker is, you're gonna make it boring. But if you try and counter the counter striker, it might be better for you sometimes. So if she lets Valentina come to her, potentially, but as Ghost just said, there's that pressuring element. Could just get crazy and run in there. Who knows? But as Eunice says, should Santos try to front kick Valentina? I mean, she has that slight length, like we are saying, but I don't know about that because then she gives up the leg to get tripped or swept, taken down off of that. So that seems like a risky move to me. Will she try one of them at least? Potentially. Don't know. Hard to say. But yeah. Ghost says, the best time to front kick Valentina is when she has her back near the fence like Nunes did. Well, yeah, see if you can eliminate that space. That's a very big key element here. Take away the space for Valentina. As James says, what are Santos' hands like? Would she work better if she kept the distance, kept the stance closed, southpaw versus southpaw? Yeah, no, her hands are good. They're good as we saw. I mean, she dropped JoJo, like I said, and she's put a beating on several of the girls that she should have before the loss there. But would she work better if she kept the stance closed, southpaw versus southpaw? I mean, that typically, again, it's like when you're going against Valentina, it's like how it's so hard to say because she can just adapt to everything. But here for Ghost saying Valentina is a counter fighter and that needs space in all directions. When Valentina has her back near the cage, she just can't retreat. Problem is, I don't know if Santos can do that. And she's punch and clinch, so she will slip one punch, then clinch up, which is a good defensive strategy. Close the distance, the double jab, and the front kick fake. You know that Valentina has to react to those things, but strategy is don't do anything in time when she comes in. Very fair. As Jen asks, is there a way to beat Valentina? I mean, we have seen it, right? We have seen Nunes do it twice, even though I do think Nunes lost the second fight. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but she very clearly won the first fight with Valentina. But that was, 20 2015, that was a while ago. That was quite a while ago. So it is possible, Jin. It is certainly possible. And like I said, I think that Kayla has the potential, style, and smarts, at least how we've seen her fight, to give Valentina trouble. And Ru says, I felt that she ran out of ideas against Nunes in the second fight. Yeah, that's fair. Again, it's been a while since I've seen that one, but this will be interesting though. I am looking forward to it. Looking forward to this whole card, but I think that's about where we can sum it up, you guys. And I mean, we hit the 130 mark. How about that? Well timed. I am the master of timing, if you were unaware, but a lot to unpack here. A lot to unpack with this upcoming card. UFC 275 this Saturday night, Singapore. My goodness, 4 great fights from the ladies. What, like 13 overall great fights? Very excited to see Herri fight for the title. My goodness, one of my favorites. Just going to be a wild week of action. As Jimmy says real quick, do you think Santos' previous record could hurt her here? I mean, no, because we've seen since then that it didn't end up mattering. Like I thought it would, Jimmy. Trust me, I thought that it would for sure, but it has just proven kind of to be reps, right? Practice kind of makes perfect. She has proven that she's just fine and doesn't really matter, I guess. And Alvin says, thank you to the UFC for putting on such great fights week to week. King of positivity there. But all right, you guys, that will just about do it for this week. Good stuff. Appreciate all the engagement. Looking forward to talking about it again next Saturday, next Monday. Excuse me. So until then, everybody, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing here going on the MMA Mania YouTube channel, and follow along at MMAmania.com for all the happenings in the world of mixed martial arts as well. And you can follow me at @DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter and Instagram, or you can follow me on the YouTube channel as well, as I did do a stream last Wednesday. Probably not going to do a lot more of those, but they'll come randomly. They will come randomly. Don't you worry. And yeah, as for plugs and whatnot, do have some interviews lined up here for this week, so won't say who they are just yet, but know that they're coming. And then next week we will be off to Atlanta for the 2022 PFL 4, which will be the lightweights again, and light heavyweights, right? So that should be fun. But until then, you guys, and nothing will change, right? I'll be leaving Tuesday, so we will still have next week's show at the same time and all that. But yeah, I think that'll about do it. So, all right, you guys, enjoy the week of action. And remember, stay safe and stay sane. I'll see you next time. Peace out.